All right, man, peace. So a couple of weeks ago, there was a situation where Kelvin Benjamin, currently one of the wide receivers for the Buffalo Bills, formerly of the Carolina Panthers, came out and pretty much stated that one of the reasons why his career has not been as successful as he and many others would have hoped is because Cam Newton does not have the highest football IQ, that he's not the most accurate quarterback, etc. And that came as a shock to many because overall, the common consensus was that Kelvin Benjamin and Cam Newton were very close. As a matter of fact, when Kelvin Benjamin got traded, Cam Newton was one of the first people to go on social media and talk about how disappointed he was that his quote-unquote good friend was traded. So when Kelvin Benjamin decided that he was going to throw Cam Newton under the bus and basically rake him over the coals publicly, it seemed like a bit of a shock because everybody thought that they were close friends, including Cam Newton, very obviously, who decided that he was going to approach Kelvin Benjamin before the preseason game between the Carolina Panthers and the Buffalo Bills, approach him man-to-man and ask him exactly what the problem was. Well, Kelvin Benjamin brushed him off. And it's very obvious that Cam Newton is still hurt by it because he thought that they were truly close. And this is the reason why I have this series on what is friendship, because so many so-called black men, they develop these relationships with other people and they think that these people are sincere. And the vast majority of people that you're going to come across in life are not sincere. When I say they're not sincere, meaning they're not really who they try to project themselves to be. Why is that? Because they hate themselves. Why do they hate themselves? Because they're trying to appeal to a certain image that society tells them they should be trying to appeal to, and therefore trying to exude or convey that energy to other people because it's going to make them popular or charismatic or what have you. So after a while, most of these people don't even know who the hell they really are. So of course, it's easy for them to lie to you because they're lying to themselves every day. So if you're one of those few people who actually knows who you are and loves yourself, and those are the two key factors that you have to have in order to be loyal, because in order for you to be loyal to someone else, you actually have to have integrity. For you to have integrity, you have to know who you are as a person. If you're one of those rare people who has those attributes, or those qualities, or those characteristics, you have to use a great amount of discretion when you're establishing these rapport, these relationships, whether it's a friendly one or a relationship with your significant other or what have you, because it takes a long amount of time to determine exactly how many faces lie beneath that mask that this other person has presented towards you. And to be quite frank with you, if Cam Newton had really wanted to fight fire with fire, he could have told Kelvin Benjamin, dude, how could I be the reason why your career sucks when I won an NFL MVP and we went to the Super Bowl the year that you were injured? He could have said that, but he chose not to. He took the high road. But anyway, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
All right, let's keep it moving. So by now you know the deal. Kelvin Benjamin took shots at his former quarterback, Cam Newton, in an interview. Cam trolled him on the gram leading up to a confrontation on the field before their preseason game last week. Now, after the game, Kelvin praised Nathan Peterman for his accuracy. Cam then had this to say in a video posted by the Panthers last night.
I mentioned it before, but I'm gonna just tell you, I need things around me just like this wall. But I know you probably ask yourself, like, why this wall is just so basic? But it never changed on me.
Thank you, sir. And for those of you brothers out there who might not have heard what Cam Newton is stating, he said that he needs things around him that are just like this wall right here, because it doesn't change. And that's why I always try to implore brothers to do their due diligence when they're establishing relationships with other people, because establishing a relationship with someone is almost like trying to connect your computer with another computer over a network. The reason why your computer has defenses is because if you're not careful, you'll receive a virus from that other computer that you're trying to connect to. And it's the same way with people. If you open yourself up to just every random person that wants to act as if they want to create a relationship with you, you could receive a lot of their spiritual viruses. You could be betrayed by them. And that could resonate in your spirit for a very long time, maybe even the rest of your life, and that might hamper you from being able to develop real relationships with people down the line. That's why you got to be very, very careful who you call a friend or who you call a loved one, etc. You have to be able to quantify and qualify those terms so that you don't get caught off guard by the bullshit. It's very important. But what the brother stated here, it might sound simple, but it's very real. You need people who are not going to change. But once again, why do people create these facades for themselves? It's because they don't like themselves. It's like when you first meet someone at a job, they're on probation. You don't know who somebody is until they get off probation at their job. That same guy who was coming in every day, bringing everybody donuts and coffee and tea and blah, blah, blah. Once his 3-month probation is over, he don't even say good morning to people anymore. He just go to his desk and be like, fuck all y'all. Because he's created a facade for himself that he felt like he had to create so that he could engraft himself into a certain environment. You know, you meet a certain female. She might act nice. She might act deferential, respectful to the masculine principle. But after she gets bored, she takes that mask off. So once again, do your due diligence.
It's the same wall every single day. I like that. I need things, people around me. It's like this one. Ain't gonna change it. Same sign, same color.
I feel you on that, brother. I'm going to rewind this back so that we can hear everything that he states in proper context.
In a video posted by the Panthers last night.
I mentioned it before, but I'm gonna just tell you, I need things around me just like this wall. I know you probably ask yourself, like, why this wall is just so basic? But it never changed on me. It's the same wall every single day. I like that. I need things, people around me. It's like this wall. Ain't gonna change it. Same sign, same color.
I used to have a pink Kangol hat just like that. Max, does he look worse now? Because it feels like Cam's not letting it go.
I think that the reason why Cam is not letting it go is because he thought that he had a real friend and he didn't. I state that he didn't as opposed to he doesn't is because for someone to flip on you like that, that doesn't mean that he's not your friend right now. That means that he never was your friend. He was just kissing your ass because you were the quarterback and he was the receiver and he needed you to get him the football. So he wanted to act as if he was your buddy so that you would throw him the football. Now that he's gone, his true feelings about you have come out. That's what Cam realizes. He realizes not that Kelvin Benjamin is no longer his friend, but that he never was his friend. So Cam feels deceived. Therefore, he feels hurt. Once again, brothers, be very, very careful who you establish connectivity with.
Cam, you won. What are you doing? Like he's given up the game after he already won. I said he won by TKO.
Well, the issue, Max Kellerman, is that it was not a game to him. Cam Newton is very clearly a sincere person. And I've had my issues with Cam in regards to how he's handled various situations in the past. I don't believe that the brother's necessarily the sharpest knife in the drawer, but just because you're not the sharpest knife in the drawer does not mean that you're not a good person. He was at the epicenter of the pro-black mafia's crosshairs a few months ago when he stated that he didn't necessarily agree with Colin Kaepernick. Of course, many of the members of the liberal sports media tried to attack him because of that and some other issues that he's been involved in. But in regards to him as a person, it's very clear that Cam Newton has gone out of his way to make sure that he tries to help his community the best way that he feels he can help. And it's very obvious that he's an extremely sincere person in regards to how he conducts himself with other people. So that's why he's so hurt. And it's not a game to him. So it's not about whether he won the game or not. He's hurt that somebody that he thought was a friend never was a friend.
Stop the fight! And now he's still in his feelings about this? And by the way, what he just did wasn't entertaining. It wasn't funny. It wasn't profound. And he seemed to be very impressed with it.
Well, I disagree with you, sir. I thought that it was profound for him. And I thought that it was profound in its simplicity. But if you're not a loyal person, you might not see the profundity in it. You might look at it and say, this is buffoonish. Why is he pointing at a wall? Everybody's not satiated by these intricate, so-called in-depth exposés on the human condition. Some people, all they need is a very simplistic prop to get their point across. And that's all he was doing. Maybe Cam Newton knows his limitations. Maybe he knows that he's not a great orator. He does not need to sit down and quote philosophers from the 1800s and what they had to say about friendship. Maybe a good friend to him is someone who's like a wall. And that is pertinent because a wall has to provide stability. It also provides protection. Maybe that's what he needs. But at the end of the day, like he stated, he just needs something that's not going to change.
And he's still thinking about this dude, Kelvin Benjamin, after he smoked him already. He got him. He did the tweet with Greg Olson. Everything about it. Kelvin Benjamin had to apologize, and still Cam hit him with a shot, and it was like, okay, it's over. And now this. Cam, what are you doing? You know what it reminds me of? You ever see like a street artist doing portraits or something, or landscapes on TV? You'll see, and you're like, okay, it's perfect. Leave it alone. Then they got to add another 10 minutes of stuff. You're like, you just made it worse. What'd you do? You had it right. Cam, you had it right. You had it right. You had me. And you lost me. I mean, he gave away the moral high ground here, and he does not make him look good.
Well, I don't think that he gave away the moral high ground at all. I just think that Cam is an emotional person. I think that he's someone who lives his life in a very transparent way, and he's going to continue to do that. Everyone just can't cast people aside, and I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing for you to be able to cast people aside. I just think that you have to know who to cast aside as opposed to who to maintain your associations with. That's the most important thing.
Well, I disagree with you. Listen, there is something to be said for ultimately letting things go, but that's not the point here. The reality of the situation is that he confronted, if you watch the film when he confronted Kelvin Benjamin on the field, Thomas Davis, he was like waving him off. Go ahead. Get on out of here. I got this. And he confronted Kelvin man to man. Kelvin wants to go back, and Kelvin wants to talk to reporters and talk about how he didn't want to talk to Cam. Cam clearly has some work to do. He's only completed better than 60% of...
And good job by Cam Newton for moving Thomas Davis aside. Thomas Davis needs to take his ass somewhere else. Every season he gets his arm or his leg broke in a very important game. So he needs to go work on making sure that his bones are not so brittle this year. Let Cam handle his own business. And stop trying to act like you're going to jump this brother Kelvin Benjamin.
Of his passes 2 times in his 7-year career. He's entering his 8th year. We understand that. And obviously there's some truth to what Kelvin Benjamin has said. But that is not what Cam is alluding to. What Cam is alluding to is the importance of being able to trust the people that you are around. Like, for example, it's not about liking folks all the time. It's not about liking how they are. I'd be damned if folks like me all the time. I know better. But I know this much.
And every man who speaks according to power knows that everyone is not supposed to like you. If everybody likes you, it's probably because you're a simpleton and you're powerless, so you're not a threat. So it's not that everybody necessarily likes you, it's just that you're not a threat. You're harmless. You're like a puppy. But when you exude a certain level of power or prestige, there are going to be people who dislike you, no matter what you say, no matter how magnanimous or generous you are. That goes hand in hand with powers that you're a threat.
What you can trust about me, I'm going to be Stephen A. I'm going to be who I am all the time. It don't matter what you think, feel, or whatever the case may be. You can trust that this person is going to be who they are. And that is what matters, particularly when you are the quarterback of a football team. There's a lot of things that go into it. Think about what a quarterback, the responsibility that a quarterback has on their shoulders. It's not only their job to know their job, they got to know your job. They got to know what you're supposed to be doing. Plus, they have...
Well, that's Kelvin Benjamin's gripe. Kelvin Benjamin, like Cam Newton, didn't know his job. He didn't know my job. He didn't know anybody's job. All he did was stand in the pocket and just throw to Greg Olson or run. That's his gripe. But at the end of the day, the real issue is that he tried to act like he was Cam Newton's friend, and he wasn't. Now, does Cam need to work on his overall quarterbacking skills? Yes, he does. Do I believe that he's going to improve as a quarterback? No, not really. I think that Cam is at the age where he's already decided who he is as a player, and he's not really going to change.
They have to be a leader. Plus, they have to be a spokesperson, etc., etc. There's a lot of things that come into it. Every Wednesday, the quarterback goes before the media during the season and talks. You trying to tell me that in 3 years, Cam Newton didn't have incentive or justification to go in front of the media and talk about Kelvin Benjamin? Never did it. And so the point that I'm trying to make to you is that when you look at it from that perspective, no, it wasn't funny. It didn't work as well as he might have liked, and I agree with that. My point is his point was valid. His point was, excuse me, there's a level of consistency that you should have from the people around you. I have always been Cam. Even with that footage that you're maligning, think about what you said about Cam in the past. As wrong as he might be from time to time, it is aligned with what he is. The Super Bowl, you got on him more than anybody. Not just for not jumping on the ball, but also getting up and not wanting to address that when being questioned by the media post Super Bowl. You brought that up. Well, guess what? This is the latest example. Cam being Cam. That's who he is.
I don't have a problem with his point, saying he wants people with consistent character around him, right? My point here is he was above the he got down a little bit and rolled around in the mud a little bit, but the way he did it was funny, entertaining, correct. He had the moral high ground. He made his point. He won. And then he obliterated him. And then he stepped to him like a man, not in a hostile, aggressive, physically confrontational way, but in a way like, listen, let's talk about this face to face.
It was sort of physically confrontational,
but it wasn't like they were going to fight.
Yeah, I know that, but
say it to my face.
That's right.
I respected everything that he did and the way he handled it. I did not respect this because it's over and he's still going.
Well, you know what, Max Kellerman, and I do respect some of the points that you're making, but at the end of the day, I think that Stephen A. has this topic pegged a little better, because what Stephen A. is considering is Cam Newton's personality. Cam is obviously a loyal dude, or at least he considers himself loyal. So loyal people are automatically going to have their feelings hurt more. And I know that sometimes that term feelings, we have to put it in quotes, because that term feelings can oftentimes be hard to quantify or qualify. But different people approach interactions with other people different ways. If we know that Cam Newton has always been an emotional person, which lends itself to being emotionally unstable, we can't be surprised when he's still talking about something somewhere down the line. And once again, I have no problem with the comparison that he's making to the type of energy that he needs around him, which is stability. He needs to have people who are not going to change up on him. And what we all have to realize in life is that, for the most part, people are opportunists. How many people in life are you going to encounter that are going to do good things for you or say good things about you just off of GP and not expect anything back in return? That's very, very rare. Very rare. Because that normally is a person who's operating not even just according to a three-dimensional mode of thinking, but a fourth-dimensional mode of thinking, which is the highest level, where they're considering these spiritual ramifications of their words and deeds. Very, very, very rare when you come across a person like that.
But you're acting as if you're acting as if Kelvin Benjamin departed from Cam and said nothing. No.
Why is he hanging on? Does it at all make you think Cam looks a little weak, like he's still talking about it?
It's not a little weak if you're real and true to your emotion. If somebody has gotten on your damn nerves and you ain't let it go, you ain't let it go. That's what the point is. I'm not saying that it would have been. I'm not saying that. Well, you know what? Sometimes, listen, excuse me. You don't get to respond to that because you've applauded people punch it down all the time. I listen to you. I listen to you at least 19 times a year on HBO. You applaud dudes punch it down. Right? Exactly. So just stop it. You don't get to say that, okay? But my point that I'm trying to make to you is this: it's consistent with Cam. Would I have done it? Would you have done it? Probably not. But I don't have a problem with it, and I don't think anybody else should.
If you hit a guy while he's on the canvas, you're going to get DQ'd. He already knocked him out. No. He already knocked him out. He's on one knee.
Well, I would not liken this situation between Cam Newton and Kelvin Benjamin to two professional boxers who are engaging in a professional boxing match. I would more liken this to, or at least from Cam Newton's perspective, to him fighting a little brother who had tried to attack him, and him feeling hurt by the fact that his little brother tried to attack him and that he had to knock him out. Of course, he's still not over it. So I think that the boxing analogy is a bad one because I don't think that this is a professional beef. I think that this is a personal beef.
He's about to get DQ'd behind that.
Time out. I get the point that he's trying to make about the wall and don't change and base state. I get that. But come on, the video was a little corny, guys. You guys
we already both acknowledged that already.
Well, a lot of people are corny. It's okay. Molly Karam, you're corny a lot of times. That's life.
that already.
Corniness.
That's not the focus.
So
We both acknowledge
you're saying that he's staying authentic. though.
Corniness,
But yeah,
no
sometimes
doubt. But
he's
here are
corny.
the two options. Either he's in his feelings, he still wants to talk about it, or, and maybe this is even
Oh my
worse,
God.
he's so enjoying the fact that he's routing Kelvin Benjamin publicly that he wants to do it some more.
Yeah.
That's beneath him, or it should be.
Well, it's not, A. And B, you also have to understand that because of what Kelvin Benjamin said, it's put both of them in an elevated spotlight because we're going to look at Cam now. You got Greg Olson back. Okay, you still got Funches there. You got some weapons. You got McCarthy. You got, what's this kid from Stanford? I'm sorry, I got brain lock right now.
McCaffrey.
Now, the running back that they drafted last year.
Oh, Christian McCaffrey.
That's Christian McCaffrey, right? You've got that going on. So because you have those pieces,
The only reason I remembered the dude's last name was because I remember his father playing with the Denver Broncos.
in place, people are going to be looking for you
So ball.
to debunk, which he will. It's not like he ain't gonna show up and play. The point is that, and ultimately you were irritated by this man.
Yeah.
You responded. I see no problem with
His
it.
feelings.
I see no problem with it.
Kiki, do you
For
love
the
me
first
video?
3
Really? And you are the one person that you'll sit up there. If he wasn't in his feelings, I mean, what do you stand
I
for?
Leave him
Feel
wanting
something.
more.
That's what you would say.
Well, Stephen A. Smith, that's a great point, but that's normal hypocrisy from the media. When athletes express how they feel, they're too much in their feelings. When they hide it, they're not being sincere and they're not being authentic. So it is what it is. That's why you can't give a shit about what people say or what they think. At the end of the day, for the most part, most of us are only going to have the amount of people that will make up the fingers on one hand that actually care about us and that we should sincerely care about in return. If you're very blessed, you'll go into the second hand in regards to the amount of people that sincerely care about you and that you should care about in return. You should not be too concerned about what the average person thinks about you. As long as you're keeping the laws of the land and the laws of the Most High, to hell with everybody else. In regards to what Cam Newton states, hopefully he understands now that he has to use greater scruples in establishing relationships and rapport and trusting people. But it is what it is. That's up to him as a man. So peace.